Happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day, Matt.
Happy Independence Day, Joe.
While you guys are watching this right now, I hope you have it on the big screen outside in your yard, or you're playing it on your phone so people can hear it. Enjoying your family, eating sausage and hamburgers, fireworks.
I don't know. Can we consider a hot dog sausage? That's pushing the line a little bit. I mean, it's close enough.
Yeah.
It's a pick, but yeah, it's close enough.
Actually, if you knew how hot dogs were made, you probably wouldn't eat them.
Nah, you wouldn't.
That's a totally different show. We're off today, but we did have an interview that you said, Brendan, you're like, I want to punch this guy.
Did I say I want to punch him?
You did, kind of.
Now there's going to be a fight set up, and we're going to learn Brendan has secret Taekwondo training, and
But he's a good guy.
No, he seems like a good guy.
And he wrote an article. We'll make sure that it goes inside the comments so you can see that. But I agreed to give him an interview if he sat down with me.
Yep.
So we've got a couple-hour interview with Brendan, and I think you'll find it to be revealing.
And by the way, Brendan, I didn't actually say that, but I did say that I thought it was a little bit. It seemed like it was setting up for a hit piece. It was a little bit gay, but not in necessarily the worst way. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe we're going to see something good happen from this. It was a great conversation, and I appreciate the level of respect that he handled it with. So I'm excited for you to watch it. You're going to love this. It's going to be good.
Let's go.
Take two. Cut.
Take two. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
All right, follow me with this.
But they've been using their power to obstruct and stop justice from taking place.
You want to pray us out?
I do.
We'll pray for Tina. And let's have conversations about what truth is.
First things first, man, I haven't really caught up with you except for a brief hello in the hallway since we talked about the rebrand. How's the rebrand shaking out for you?
Messy.
Yeah? Like,
Messy.
Can you tell me a little bit about what the difference is since you were Conservative Daily and now you're Untamed? Has there been any, I don't know, I guess it's a wide open question.
I think the biggest thing for me was the identity of what it meant to be conservative. Like, prior to 2020, nobody called me political in any way, shape, or form. And, I had my opinions, but mine weren't really tied to a political party. They were tied more to, how do I help my community? So, fast forward, President Trump gets elected. Pretty weird that he's considered the conservative candidate. I think he's
Agreed.
Probably right in the middle, and has some. I don't agree with everything he says, and I think from 2021 to 2024, my main focus was this radical agenda that I couldn't put my fingers on. And I don't think anyone could, but you get wrapped up in it, right? Mm-hmm. So the first year you're wrapped up in what got me involved in this to begin with, which was the Eric Coomer involvement in the elections. And even before that, it was COVID, right? You had COVID, which divided our community, I think, pretty ridiculously in different ways. And then you had, obviously, Antifa and Black Lives Matter, which, admittedly, when the whole George Floyd thing came out, I was on the side of the not being for the police.
Mm-hmm.
My brother was murdered by a police officer.
You told me that before. I don't think you told me any details.
Yeah, so I like to say that nothing good happens to you after midnight, right? Being out after midnight, there's not a whole lot of good that happens.
I can attest to that, yeah.
And so he was out with my brother and a few other people, and the police started hounding him, and which is pretty common in DC. I mean, Washington D.C. The police there, they have their own set of rules in the DMV. So they chased him, and he was eventually was going down Route 1, and a police officer basically hit him going 90 miles an hour from the side. knocked him into a wall. He hit a pole and died.
Oh, I hate to hear that, man.
So-
My brothers are the most important people in my life to me. So
Yeah, he worked for me, and it turned my life upside down for about a year and a half. Like it was difficult. I have 7 brothers and sisters, and he was my favorite. He was just he was a one percenter. He was a biker, but he was probably one of the most amazing men you'd ever meet. He just he's a good man.
older or younger?
Younger.
Younger.
Yeah, so I was conflicted all the way through 2020, and hoped to sell my company. And Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year finalist. The second year I was nominated for it. Sat on all these boards, did all these great things, and then my friend committed suicide in, the at the beginning parts of COVID because the bank shut down his credit line. The stock market dropped 1,000 points in one day. Everyone freaked out.
Yeah.
And so that affected me in a really kind of powerful way. Like I worked overseas in the Middle East and Africa. I understand foreign policy. I've done crazy things in my life, and I saw it as an op, and turns out it was. But that led me down a path where then I had to choose a side, right? And because my family is interracial, and so I don't adhere to the, white people hate black people or any of that stuff.
Can you elaborate on that? I guess I'm not sure exactly how multiracial your family is.
So my dad's black.
I heard
my
you say
mom's
that
white.
in the trial. Yeah.
And my whole family's interracial. So I have half siblings, I have full siblings, and I have step siblings. And, I grew up super poor. So I've seen that white people don't like me because my dad's black. Black people don't like me because my mom's white. So I grew up in that era in the DC area. And so it's a really kind of powerful reminder that racism is a real thing. I've lost big business deals because of racism. I've sat at a island while someone made a derogatory comment about Spanish people. My niece is married to a Hispanic guy, super good dude. I think I'm pretty well connected in all the different communities. I play football with gang members on Saturdays, and I started football leagues, and I've done all sorts of stuff to help the inner city community. But I sat at the island, and he made a derogatory comment, and I pulled a picture out of my wallet of my family, showed it to him, and then kindly told him to fuck off. So
That's what they deserve.
I'm kind of the thing that is defines me in my life is I've always gone for what's right, not necessarily what's popular. And I didn't want to get involved in the election. I didn't want to get involved I'm a system architect. I think I was probably the smartest one at the Mike Lindell trial. Alex Halderman, who's the expert, he proved to me in that case that he really doesn't understand the systems, that he's parroting somebody else's talking points. Because they asked him a simple question about system architecture, and he said, "I'm not familiar with that term as it relates to election integrity." Well, it's actually the 5th page of any manual would be, what is the system architecture? Like, what is the full? And he wasn't familiar with that vernacular, and how could you actually be someone that talks about systems and not understand what it means to have system architecture or how that affects the outcome of how systems are developed. So,
and you got into that not because of election shit, not related to 2020. This is how you created your businesses, yeah?
Yes. Yeah. Several tech companies. We build stuff related to different personas, individual personas.
I heard your description on the stand, and I was like, oh, damn. That sounds fascinating.
I'm not that was the hardest part about being on the stand, is that I think if we were able to push out all the ops that are being run on the people, we could have some pretty good conversations. Like, my business partner is a gay married Jewish father of 2. Go ahead and try to figure that out. You can't. He loves Bernie Sanders. I liked President Trump. We went round and round. But in 13 years, him and I have never had an argument. Never, not once. And he's one of my best friends. And he gives me a lot of advice, like, hey, you probably shouldn't have said that. Because when it first happened in 2020, I was pretty harsh on Democrats.
Mhm.
I would call them names.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that I had friends that were Democrats, so they stopped talking to me.
Got it. Yeah. Well, can I
So-
ask you about that? And I feel like I'm kind of jumping ahead of what I had in my notes, but
Yeah.
this feels like an opportune time. So, thinking about the context of your business partner, and honestly, I've found you easy to talk to in
Yeah.
our interactions together. Your public persona can be extremely vitriolic.
Yeah.
Name calling is a part of it. I'm trying to remember. Communist tool, did you call the judge? Or
Yeah, well, I mean, look, she has a past that would tie her back to socialist communist ideology for sure, right? And I don't think she'd deny that, right? If you could just go back in history, and for herself, and what she did, putting her fingers on the scales of justice, was pretty deliberate, very obvious. I spent 6.5 years in the Middle East and Africa negotiating in conflict areas. I taught myself Arabic,
Mhm.
right? So, when you talk about putting your hand on, and it was so obvious, and you hold a witness to a standard of emotion in limine, which basically says that I'm held to the standard of not being able to talk about Eric Coomer,
Mhm.
and what brought me to the place where I was able to figure out that Eric Coomer was Eric Coomer, right? When you say you can't talk about any of that, and you subject me to the court, first of all, I'm not a party to the lawsuit,
Mhm.
so I should be able to tell. I'm committing testimony, right? And so now I'm being told that I can't commit testimony, and I have to look at the jury, and I have to tell the jury everything that I know, while I'm getting browbeat, and she is sustaining every one of the objections.
There were a lot of bench conferences, yes.
The bench conferences, I got to hear some of them.
And you looked like you were in
And-
earshot. Yeah.
And I was mortified with the conversation, because I think that if you want a fair trial, forget the election being stolen.
Mhm.
Forget it. Let's just talk about the mechanism that we have, the judiciary.
Mhm.
If the judiciary is designed to actually protect the interests of people, it should be evident in how it operates, right? You should be able to see it. But if you're on the left, and partially the right is just ignorant to this fact, there is a school to prison pipeline that exists in inner cities. I'm sorry, Black people are disproportionately put in prison.
Agreed,
right?
but marry those concepts for me.
Marry the concepts
Yeah.
of the judiciary having the ability to operate in a fluid environment where they can decide or not decide to put their fingers on the scales of justice. Either allow the jury to hear those things
Mhm.
and make a decision. And in this case, you had the Eric Coomer's attorneys
Mhm.
that in large part said you made up the call.
Mhm.
Well, I didn't turn my life upside down, lose hundreds of millions of dollars, and subject my family to what can only be described as utter hell
Mhm.
for 4 years, to lie because I needed money, because I didn't.
Mhm.
I don't, and if I wanted fame, I certainly could have gotten it in a lot of different other ways, just in my philanthropic things that I had done
Mhm.
that I had never taken credit for. And the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that I gave to people, if I would have put my name on that money that I was giving away, it certainly would have ingratiated me in the public eye.
Mhm.
I could have gotten awards. I mean, there's a lot of things I could have gotten. So I did all this based on what I thought was right. And I didn't care who got elected as the president or the governor or anyone else.
Mhm.
I just want the people to have a seat at the table. And it became very obvious when I went through it that they didn't.
Mhm.
And the fact that the media came out and said safest, most secure election in U.S. history, and misinformation and malinformation, and they had it down. Like it was patently down, as if that was the answer, and that there was no institutional integrity to talking about what was happening.
Mhm.
It wasn't academic, yet we're supposed to be academic in how we look at things. So as you go through the things with the judge and you look at the Coomer's attorneys, he walked into you walk into an environment where the judge is literally pushing down, saying, okay, we're not going to let you hear any of this, not going to let you hear any of this. And that's a dangerous environment. That's a dangerous environment, not because it's Mike Lindell. It's a dangerous environment. It's because it erodes the integrity of what the judiciary is supposed to stand for. And in large part, that's what's happened over the last 5 years. But what they did in the inner cities, the black people, they just brought to the rest of the world and said, what are you going to do about it? And because the system, the judiciary, is so draconian that most people don't want to go through it. The thought of a lawsuit would scare half the, it would push, I bet you it would push half of people to do something drastic in their lives as a result of being involved in a lawsuit, right? And so you should not have the ability to control the community by fear and by bullying. And that is what I saw in that trial against Mike Lindell. And in large part, it didn't work. I mean, Mike came out victorious in that, and to a large degree. And
certainly isn't the judgment it could have been.
Yeah, I don't think Eric Coomer's not a credible person. I mean, I'll just tell you right now, he's not credible. He knows he lied. He knows he was on that call. I believe he knows who the person that got me on the call. Like, and the second day of the trial kind of proved that out. So they went to Tay Anderson, who I don't think anybody can defend Tay Anderson. There's not a journalist out there who can defend Tay Anderson.
I don't know Tay myself. I just know his record, and he's done some extraordinary things. He's been popped for doing some things that I imagine are youth folly to some degree, and some of it poor judgment. I'm glad I wasn't under the same sort of scrutiny that he was when I was a similar age, but then again, he put himself there. So I think, we can agree that his problems, whatever they may be, and his successes are largely of his own making.
Yeah. The problem with politics is that everyone becomes the useful idiot till they're not. Right? So they're the darling and the ones that can be a mouthpiece when they're trying to present or push a specific ideology or event. But outside of that, in large part, once they're done with you, they basically discard you on both sides, Democrat and Republican side of the aisle. But they knew, Eric Coomer knew enough to go to Tay Anderson based on the notes and say, hey, did this meeting happen? Because he was on it. And there's a certain part of this entire story which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And that is, if you weren't on the call, first of all, why'd you delete all your socials? Why did you write an op-ed that lied and said that you didn't have the socials, that I made it all up? Why did you continue to operate with the same type of character, running into a building, running into a bar and drinking, lying? I mean, if you've seen the video, right?
Yeah.
He had no problem lying at all. Like there was no part of him that showed any remorse, or he didn't even show any tics towards indications that he cared about or had any remorse. And typically there's tics that in negotiating, you look for tics. You look for things that people are doing that would show you that they're wondering if you are going to catch them in their environment.
Yeah, totally.
Right? And he didn't have any of those. He didn't display any of those, which is a little sociopathic, frankly. And at the end of the day, I wouldn't have come out, and this is the part I'm not proud of. I would not have come out in 2021 with a fire the way I did if they would have left my family alone.
Now, when you say they, people that Coomer actually knows, or do you mean the broader left who were upset at what you were saying, or people who didn't believe you, or...
Well, I don't think there was a matter of belief, because belief was thrown out the door. It was dismissed. Right? It didn't matter what the factual basis were behind any of it. It was dismissed 100%. So the slandering and the defamation started day one. I can handle that. I can handle anybody coming at me. I will be very consistent in my character. But they showed up in my home with guns. Like they tried to physically assault my wife. I had to put personal security detail on my children. I have to have an AR-15 next to my bed, bulletproof glass, thermal cameras. And they didn't happen just once. It happened 20 times over the course of those 4 years, resulting in 2 people being arrested. One that had my name and address written down on a piece of paper and came to my home to do harm to my family.
Mm-hmm.
So just imagine the idea that Eric said, oh yeah, I've had all these threats and everything else. Not one time did he call the police, or did they ever even have a record of Eric Coomer having any physical threat. I have 20 just at my home, not counting the times that they had to go to my office, not counting the times that I've had people call me on the phone, make threats to me, follow me, do crazy things to me and my family, attacking my son when he was at school, attacking my daughter. I mean, look, you have children.
I do.
What would you do if somebody came for your children?
I'm absolutely with you on that. No one's coming for my children without, an extreme response.
So
I don't think that's unrelatable to any father, we have such a big responsibility in that regard.
So I had a lot of recompense to do on myself about my reaction in 2021 and 2022.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like it bit you in the ass to a degree?
No,
not the lawsuits and everything. I mean,
No.
all the money you've lost, et cetera.
What would you do to make sure that everyone saw that you would do anything it took to protect your family? What would you do? Because you don't know where the threat comes from.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
my immediate thought is it depends on the threat, and but
right.
I will handle it. However, were you ever able to narrow down who these people were and what their sort of motive was beyond some, political aisle reactionary?
Well, see, that's the problem,
extremism?
is that even if you look back at what I did with Conservative Daily,
Mhm.
it wasn't the people that we helped since 2012 that we wrote articles about or that we did journalistic, information on.
Mhm.
It wasn't all conservative.
Mhm.
It was community. It was the stuff that we did. And the whole goal of Conservative Daily was to paint a picture that broadly unearthed what it meant to be conservative, right? In other words, and Elon Musk said it best. He said, look, if you look at specifically where I am right now and you were to draw a line of ideology, I'd be considered far right. But really, he's a progressive guy, right? Well,
I think I've seen the tweet you're referring to. Yeah.
So-
It's just like
Yeah.
little figures going that way. Yeah.
So I voted for Obama in 2008.
Hmm.
I worked in the Middle East and Africa. I came back with the stories of improprieties from the American intelligence community. I talked about what Jeffrey Sachs did with the Millennium Project. I worked and uncovered the fact that there was no genocide or ethnic cleansing that happened in Darfur. I looked at the apparatuses of our intelligence community and how they were adversely causing people to die disproportionately in different countries. Like, I lived that life, 65 countries over that 6.5 years, right? I walked into areas that you would never walk into. And I never looked at it from the perspective of conservative or liberal. I looked at it from the perspective of, dear Lord, what are we doing to these people? We are literally destroying the sovereignty of nations. And you see the same thing that they're doing right now with Iran. Sorry, I can't get behind it. And everybody's like, oh, you're an anti-Semite. Well, I'm not. Right? So the whole idea of,
Sorry, this thing couldn't see me anymore.
oh, okay. The whole idea of what we're actually trying to accomplish as a nation has people thoroughly confused on what factual basis is behind it. So, look, I'm going to tell you right now, I know something about myself. I'm a very intelligent person. And when I got to the point where I had to make a decision, I wanted people to know that if you came from my family, that I would unalive you and whoever is around you. And I would make sure the consequences expanded past you. So I had to do that, and I was prepared to do that.
Is there a straight line from that to posting a picture of Coomer's house?
Yeah, but I don't think I did that. I can't find it anywhere. I
heard you say that. Yeah.
I went to Parler and said, give me my entire data file. I went and said, I want all of the data. I'll pay you. I want all the information. They're like, what are you looking for? I handed it to them. I'm like, here, this is what I'm looking for. They're like, yeah, we can't find that. So where is it? If you delete it, they still have an archive of it. That's just how it works. But again,
so you don't remember it happening. Is it the sort of thing you would do?
Well, I mean, I don't know. But I don't, again, you don't, when you're in the heat of battle and you're in a battle, it's like being in a war zone. You walk out your house. So I mean, when you had to put thermal cameras on your home to find out that there's any imprint of anyone around your home, where you have to check the cameras before you leave the house, where you have to put metal inside of the walls to protect your family.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not sure anyone understands that type of pressure,
Mhm.
right? And the thing that it would push you to do. Now, frankly, through that fire, I'm in a way better place than I've ever been. So I feel like God's like put me on this path where he's like, look, I'm going to harden you.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to allow you to come out of it and be like, okay, you're okay now. Now you have to be on that path of forgiving yourself and forgiving other people around you.
Mhm.
I think that's where I am. I'm at that. I'm back to doing the things that define me, like mentoring incarcerated men that get out of
Mhm.
prison that have a scarlet letter. I do that. One of the guys that I've mentored got paroled 3 years early. I mean, and his family freaking hated me.
Mhm.
Right? They hated me
Because of your
because of the new
media persona?
Kyle Clark.
Oh.
I was like, Kyle Clark. Yeah, so he oh man, when I say they hated me, they're like, you need to get away from this guy. And he's like, he's my friend.
Mhm.
But every time he called me, I became that trusted advisor to him that helped push him into a better place. So, as I said on the stand, I'm not proud of what I had to become in 2020. If I could take that back, I probably would. But I don't know how I could have in the midst of all that. I don't know how I could have. So I operate with a little less vitriol towards what I call my intended targets, because I think I'm past the point where I want to have those. I want to create enemies.
Mhm.
If that makes
Was
sense.
the security situation calmed down these days?
No.
No?
I still carry a gun.
Well, I believe that, but as far as threats go.
Last threat was the second day into trial, just as I was testifying. And you get these anonymous text messages that say, we haven't forgot about you.
Mhm.
We're still coming. Or the ones you get online where they, so you still get them.
Mhm.
I just don't react to them anymore.
Yeah.
Right? I still train for it.
Mhm.
I still train for the idea that whatever created the thing over the last 5 years, it was not normal. You have to admit it wasn't normal.
These aren't normal times.
But they should be. And
I hope so for our children, right? I feel like I grew up in a lot more stable, normal American context than my kids are growing up.
What does that say
now.
about our again, if we're going to be academic about those things, how do we lay down our swords towards each other and look at what the real causation is, the real key? Like, what is the problem? And this is kind of where I'm at now, is that I look at this from not the standpoint of how do we navigate the chaos and act as if we have to accept it, but how do we go to where the root of the problem is? Who's the wizard behind the curtain? Why is our leadership so ineffective? Why are they so terrible on both sides? Why are they so dumb? Like when I have a conversation with you, you're articulate, you understand things. I can talk through things with you. We may not agree or disagree, but it's fine, right? Why is it we can't get that same sort of reaction, that academic response, or even a response that's ethical when it comes to our leadership on either side? I'm not forgetting either side, because I think that they did the rally cry on either side, and we, like useful idiots, ran behind them on both sides. But then who becomes the victim in all that? It's never the leadership.
Yeah, and you and I talked at length when we had our Zoom interview about our commonalities, right? And not just mine and yours, but our communities and what we really give a shit about, right? And taking care of your neighbor. And I don't think you're a racist. I do wonder where that sort of common ground lies when you get to the name calling parts of what you do.
Yeah, well, I'd like to say that I do less name calling than I did before. So I don't, look, pain does a lot to you. It's not, when you have spent your entire life serving other people, and then the people take that away from you, it's the thing that drives you. It takes you to a place you don't want to be. but you have to wake up to that every day. And then people get to say whatever they want with impunity. They get to lie about you. They get to create a story that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And so just imagine that every day you wake up with a scarlet letter. And in large part, I have the only difference between me and some of these guys that went to jail for 15, 20 years
Mm-hmm.
is that I grew up in a place where it could have been me. So I was blessed with an immense amount of success and the ability to say, okay, I can walk away from it and I can create a new life, and I can focus in on what it means to be successful and run towards it. A lot of people didn't get that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing we said is that I made good choices. I didn't do drugs. I just sold a lot of them when I was younger, but I didn't do any. And I lived a pretty virtuous life, I'd say, for the last 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My life has been, I've done some really good things over the last 18 years. And part of that began with going to the Middle East and Africa and really humbling myself over what it meant to serve.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so I built a successful company as a result of it. I've done really well. I'm not the easiest guy to work for, but I mean, I've been with my wife 23 years. I have 2 beautiful children. I have literally lived a storied life, even through the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But something cracks inside of you when somebody attacks you relentlessly. And it's not one person attacking you. It's not like me yelling at you.
Mm-hmm.
It literally is a campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decided, okay, not only is the campaign going to exist, but then we're going to take away Joe's ability to respond. Canceled on Facebook, canceled on X, canceled. I mean, I got canceled every which way till Sunday.
Not by yourself. This was a whole sweep that happened, though, right? We're talking about post January 6th and the wave of social media cancellations there, or is it beyond that?
Yeah, but I got canceled on January 6th. And on January 6th, I was at the State Department.
Mm-hmm.
I was briefing Pompeo's counsel on how they stole the election, which I predicted using Dominion's own system architecture to tell them how they stole it. I even told them how it was going to be stolen on January 5th for the runoff election. And I was right to the T. Well, tell me how I would be right when I didn't have any variables. How was I able to predict that if I didn't have the variables? Only someone that understands system architecture and basic math and how the PID controllers and rootkits, the ability to basically influence an outcome,
mm-hmm.
and have separate databases, which my original model showed, would be able to predict that, especially the way I did it. And so as soon as I did that and I went there, all of a sudden I'm out. And it was November 10th. November 10th that I got my first warning on X. It was November 15th. I got canceled from X. I didn't do anything on X. It was 8 days after the election. Why would they cancel me 8 days after the election and say I'm running multiple accounts when I only ran one account? An account that had 200 some
That
odd
was
thousand.
their justification, was you're playing games with different accounts.
Man, I was just trying to figure out how to keep my family safe.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean,
Can I rewind real quick?
Yeah.
I just don't want to lose this train of thought. But when you're talking about the campaign against you, and these people that you've never known before saying things about you, it struck me as you were saying that Coomer could say something similar and it would sound just as genuine. Do you ever reflect and think that you two might not be so different than one another?
1,000%.
I mean, I think the three of us
1,000%.
actually are all about the same age, from what I understand.
Look,
we're all within a couple of years of each other.
I think that I have a pretty good understanding about who Coomer is. And I didn't do that real analysis until 2023, 2024. And I said it. I mean, I've said it like I was talking to a friend of mine. And I go, he lost his sister when he was very young. I don't think everyone understands the defining moment for him in that. And you can look through things and how his trajectory of his life changed as a result of that. I think it's tied to that loss. I don't think he's ever recovered from it. I think from a physical pain standpoint, he hasn't recovered from it. So,
traumatized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe that as a result of that, it has shaped his belief system. It has shaped, his relationships or lack thereof. And so that's why when they asked me in the court, do you have any animus towards Eric? I was like, no, I don't. Because I've gotten to the place now where I recognize that he's responsible for him. I'm responsible for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hurt him. I do want him to be truthful. I don't think he is. But at the same time, the ship has sailed. Eric didn't do this thing on his own. He's a bombacious guy, right? He's a very, he likes himself. As Matt Crane, when I went to breakfast.
You think it would be hard for him not to claim credit for something he pulled off? Is that what you're saying? Like,
yeah, and it's not even the pulled off. Like, I don't believe that he did it without Serbia. I mean, all the coders are in Serbia. None of them actually got a background check. It'd be like asking you to do a background check, not to do your job without a background check, or having a bunch of people come into your kid's school and say, "Hey, we want to be teachers." Yeah, we're not going to background check. We trust you. You would have a problem with that, right?
Yes.
And the same thing could be said, I think, for this entire system. You would never, if you weren't the CIA, if you weren't trying to adversely affect this election in this country, you would never do what they did, right? You would not have separate servers and systems that you have in Serbia, which we proved, and you wouldn't have these shell corporations. You know, I do regret actually getting information from this researcher, but in the frenzy, you get this information and
Montgomery, is that who you're referring to?
No, this researcher sent me a bunch of information.
Oh, okay. Lindell got the Montgomery stuff. I was crossing wires there. I know who he is from when I lived in Phoenix 20 years ago, and he worked for Arpaio.
He's a liar. And ask Arpaio about him. He'll tell you he's a liar.
Believe me, I'm well aware of Montgomery's reputation.
But see, this is the part where, you know, I go through this process and the anger that I have is gone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to continue to tell the truth and do the right thing. I would want Eric to do the same thing. But if you read the things that Eric writes and the things that he's done, it is 100% of what happened in Dominion and what happened across the board. I don't believe Eric did it. I just think he knew about it. I think he was a part of the machine that allowed it to happen, and he didn't defend it, and he should have. Right. And I think that based on that formula, that he should be more, he personally, if he believes in the things that he says he believes in, as far as making sure that you're protecting democracy, right,
Mm-hmm.
which we're not a democracy, but whatever, then he should pursue it. He should be truthful about it. And you don't come up with a separate, affidavit that says, here are all the things in Joe's notes, but Eric wasn't on the call. Come on, you're being stupid. Just come out and say I was on the call and I was bombacious. Just be truthful and just call it a day and walk away. That's what he should do. He should be truthful. He should come out and say, okay, I'm an idiot. And I didn't have anything to do with it, but I'm an idiot. In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, a commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Gabe! Dude, Gabe, something's in the dumpster.
Whoa, what is that for?
Something's in the dumpster, man.
Well, let's use the burner. We don't want to wake the neighbors. Freeze! Stop resisting!
Stop resisting!
If you're looking for a less than lethal option for self-defense or keeping pests out of your dumpster, then check out Byrna at DCF Guns. Visit us at our 3 locations in Castle Rock or Colorado Springs, or visit us online at dcfguns.com.
Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter.
How
what it
much
should be.
allowance, if any, you can say zero,
Yeah.
but in a percentage case that he wasn't on the phone call
Zero.
and you heard something else?
0. You don't cut the tongue out of the guy that's telling the truth or lying. You cut the tongue out of the guy that's telling the truth. I mean, this
So
is
if they
this
would
is-
have laughed you off, if, in the face of what let's call it the media, right?
Yeah.
When after the election and everyone's, the election rigging starts coming up, there's a lot of that burbling up there.
Yeah.
Do you think that if he hadn't said, no, I wasn't on that call, it wouldn't have been a thing? Or play that out for me a little more.
Yeah, I don't know. I think at the time there was too much evidence coming out that would cause us problems. That's why I said it's a big con and the small cons. You're running the things through every, the machines over and over and over again. The fact that they canceled or stopped counting across the country has never happened before, right? And it happened with such regularity that it showed that there was an influence to that. The pipe bursting that turned out to be a leaky toilet at the center down in Georgia, the ballot truck that was filled with ballots that we know would actually exist. Like I was in the room when Christina Bobb had a thing from Chad Wolf, from the DHS director, who says, I've turned it back over to GBI, who then promptly destroyed it. I mean, there's things that I know that you don't know, because more often than not, they were dismissive of those things. So they could have dismissed me, coming after my family so quickly and threatening me inside of a grocery store. One day after, a day and a half after I went on the podcast, it doesn't happen that fast if it's not directed by someone inside of Dominion or someone closely related to Dominion, which then leads me to, was it directed by the CIA, right? Was the intelligence community adversely a part of this deal? I don't know. It sure looks like it. It smells like it. But so I think I want to be institutionally honest about the fact that I don't know, right? But also look at it academically to say they knew they were in trouble. There was enough indications to know that they're in trouble that they had to start swallowing up and getting people to say, oh, this is ridiculous. This is misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. I will live under whatever the people decide. Like if let's say your specific idea, like what you believe, it wins the day in the public eye. I may not like it. But to truly live under the rule of law that is run by the people, I must accept it, or we have chaos.
You're talking about majority rules.
Well, majority rules doesn't always work, right? Because mob rule is
Definitely.
never a good thing, right?
Majority rules didn't fix civil rights in this country, for sure.
Majority rules didn't fix civil rights because there was people in the same positions that there are now that did not want that institutional change. And they were able to capture, in the same way that it's captured one way, it was captured that way inside of the judiciary. So you have to look at the mechanisms by which they manipulated across the board in order to stop that from happening, right? And so, and look, racism hit my family differently than I think anyone can have. I can see it from both sides, right? I don't see a black person and get upset or think something,
Or
put
feel
my hand on my
threatened.
wallet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hand on your wallet.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't happen. I don't look at Spanish people and think, they're with, the gang.
Tren
right?
de Aragua.
Yeah, and even if they are a part of Tren de Agua, even if they were, I wouldn't treat them any different. They'd still be my brother. They'd still be my brother. And that, I think the testament for me, I wish I would have pursued this more in 2021, is that when I walked out on that football field, when I went to go play football and I had security with me and I still showed up, these men said, Joe, you don't need your security out here. We got you. Nobody's coming to do harm here. And I bet you 70% of them were stacked. 70% of them were armed. Not armed, but within arm's length. And they would have protected my life. And yet a vast majority of these people would not have supported during that time President Trump. So if I wish I would have looked back on that differently and taken the lesson from that, because I think it would have changed the outcome sooner for me. But it's not without its regrets, right?
Regrets like about partisanship, about elaborate for me a little. I don't want to put words in your
I don't
mouth.
want to be on. I don't want to wear a football jersey, right?
Blue or red?
I don't want to wear it. I don't want to wear it. I actually believe that we should have a
Tesla
third option.
logo?
Yeah, no. I think we should have a different. It should be different. It should be different than what it is right now. Like, I don't even know what it is right now that we have, because a lot of my Democrat friends don't think the Democrats are sane. A lot of my Republican friends, I'll sit and ask them. I was like, so do you think it's okay? You think you can get rid of 20 million people in this country? You think it's realistic? Do you know how much shit I got when I came on here and said, I think it's wrong? I think
The deportation effort?
is,
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely wrong. I can't get behind it. Man, I had people screaming at me over that deal. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Get your own show. This is my show.
Seriously, huh?
So how do you have the whole thing with the Israel and Iran or Gaza? You killed 38,000 women and children. How do you justify that? Why is the news not reporting it? But we don't want to report it. We just want to say that a bunch of lunatics at the campus are wrong. Maybe, but maybe not. Right? I mean, clock's right twice a day.
True.
Broken clock's right twice a day. Why is it that why can't we be honest? Why can't we be honest about what's really happening? Why do I have to align with, left, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. And people are more complicated than that.
Well, let me use that as a segue back into the phone call. Because when you brought up Tay's affidavit, that to me was like the big surprise of
Were you
the
like,
trial.
wait, what?
Well, just hearing Tay Anderson's name involved in this context, I was like, whoa, immediately like letting my editors know, because it's a news hook that immediately makes your eyebrows go up, right? How the hell did Tay Anderson get involved in this?
But he was on the call. It was in my notes.
I saw your notes.
Yeah.
You wrote that you recognize his voice. You were that familiar with hearing Tay talk?
I think it was because, Tay talk. I think it was because of how they were talking. Like, I don't remember the context behind it. I think somebody referred to him as Tay, or I don't remember. I knew that as soon as I heard it, though, I wrote it down.
Gotcha.
I was like, oh, here we go.
Gotcha. And so Tay says, yes, that's a BLM call about Joey Camp because he's been harassing us. We needed to figure out how to deal with this MFer, right?
But it wasn't just the Joey Camp. It was Breonna Taylor. I mean, there was a lot of different things that went into that call. But here's
Breonna Taylor was a big in the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, that was a flashpoint, right? I mean, that's one of the reasons it exists, along with George Floyd. And
they
countless
murdered
others.
her because they did a no-knock and ended up killing her.
Yeah.
Right. So we can all admit they murdered her. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a point that we could. Okay, I'm all for it.
For sure. And you, with Black people in your family, I imagine that hits home to you more than most white people.
They murdered my brother. Right. I mean, to me, it's not singular. You either have values or you don't. You either are ethically bound or you're not. And this whole idea that, and I've said this over the years, and this is why I changed it to Untamed, is that, look, I agree with a lot of the things that are common sense that are out there. Don't groom children, right? The school's not a place for a pride flag. It's just not, right? It's a place for the American flag and maybe understanding history so we don't repeat it, but we don't do that. We create social agendas, and we don't give kids access to education. And your kids may have access to education, but in Denver, they don't, right? Those kids in Denver you want to talk about, taking care of them, and they abandon them. That you go down to the Webb building, Mayor Wellington Webb building.
Yep.
What do you notice when you walk in?
I haven't walked in there, so you'll have to tell me.
Okay. It's air conditioned and it's beautiful. Now, go to Denver East in the middle of June, right before they're getting ready to get out of school. And what do you notice? Doesn't have air conditioning. Half the air conditioners are broken. So we want kids to grow up and do great things for us, but we can't even take care of them. But we can build a $1 billion building and make sure that everyone else that rains down on those children, that's going to give them all these edicts, make sure that they are well taken care of with their marble floors and their air conditioning units and private parking. It's completely inverse of what it should be. Right. So, I don't even know how we got onto that, but you start to look at things from the perspective of the people, and it becomes obvious.
Well, can I throw a critique at you?
Yeah.
And you can steel man this or whatever you'd like.
Me.
But thinking back to what you said about Coomer's bombast, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't equate, doesn't pencil out to me that if he, as an executive at Dominion, which controls, this massive percentage of the voting machines in the country, that if he were going to crew up, right, like with his ideological posse or however you want to think of them, that it would be Tay Anderson and Heidi Beadle and a variety of, I assume, I'll BLM, Antifa.
So let's talk about that.
So it just, that part of it seems discordant to me.
He's discordant.
Eric?
Think about think about what Eric was able to do, right? He was the director of strategy and security for Dominion Voting Systems.
That much I know.
He was involved in nearly every decision based on emails that came out. Him and John Polis were like this. John Polis lied. Can we admit that? He said that there was no connection to the internet. It did not exist. He did it under oath in 2 separate occasions, and that was a lie.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of that, but
Okay. Would a person normally connect themselves to a Tay Anderson and a Heidi Beadle, to any of those people? Let's say that by itself as a director of strategy and security is weird, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what's weirder? Putting up Antifa's manifesto literally a day after it came out, or posting things about killing cops?
Well, we could talk about that. I really think that Antifa manifesto is more of a joke than...
It's not a joke. It's not. You ask anyone that's in Antifa, it's not a joke. And in his deposition, he admitted in his deposition that he was Antifa. Go back and listen to it. I'll actually send it to you so you can go through the entire video deposition. So
I got it. And I understand what you're saying. I just think that some people, perhaps ones who are not as mature or haven't given it enough consideration, wouldn't use that word because of the associations people make, but they might identify as an anti-fascist, right? But I can absolutely see younger people going like, yeah, I'm Antifa, because anyone can say that. And I worked for the Southern Poverty Law Center on 2 different occasions, 2 different stints. I didn't put you on the hate list. I don't know about any of that part of it, but I've worked in an anti-extremism space, right? I've committed anti-fascist actions very specifically at people who I think they might even admit they were fascists, right? So I consider that is...
Am I a fascist?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
We'll get to know each other better.
Have I been called it?
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. It's become this expansive definition, but I feel like Antifa has as well.
Yes.
And from what I know, and operating on largely that side of, not the political side, but operating in an anti-extremism, in the professional anti-extremism world where I'm working with attorneys and shit like that, there are pocket groups, right? Like Colorado Springs Antifa is a well-known anti-fascist group. Rose City Antifa in Portland, Oregon is a fairly well-known anti-fascist group. Then there are a million, and I want to say kids. What I really mean is probably people up till their 30s who identified with something in the summer of 2020 and in the turbulent time that followed, where they would dress in all black and say, I'm Antifa, right? But as an organization, I've never known it to be anything more than pockets full of people.
All right. Let's go back to what you asked about, which is it doesn't check that Eric would do be connected to those people in that environment. And that wouldn't follow the character of that position. The director of strategy, guy that's a doctor, right, has a nuclear engineering degree. He wrote inside of his posts, his social post, which he said didn't exist, he wrote that how kill pigs, F the USA. Now, this is a guy that's responsible for 50% of the vote of the American people, and he is publicly posting things
I hadn't seen either of those, but
Yeah, I can give you all of them. There's 80 some odd of number of them. So I can give you all of those. But he is publicly posting about killing cops, hating conservatives, killing Trump, right? He's writing this stuff publicly. It's not a normal deal. And a normal person doesn't run into a building at 2:00 in the afternoon, run into a bar and drink and hide that. It's not, you're not talking about a normal anomaly and then lie about it. And then have your lawyers show up in the side of the road, which is really creepy because had they know, which means he knew, but he was willing to lie and hope that the lawyers could get him off of a felony because it is a felony, right? Influencing a public official is a felony. They told him in the video you could commit a felony. So I don't think that we're talking about a normal person. They were talking about a guy that literally is egocentric and frankly just does things because he wants to do it. He's also a guy, by the way, that had 2 previous arrests in California and would have done a very long prison sentence. This is true about Eric Coomer, and that he was a heroin addict.
drug-related offenses. I'm not familiar with those charges.
Yeah, so because it's not public knowledge, I'm not going to make it public knowledge.
Okay.
But he has a history of not being very good. I mean, writing about raping his wife and peeing on her, making her bark like a dog, and then publishing that. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that he's done that is antithetical to the person that would be in that position. And so you could say that, why and this. Look, like I said before, do I think that he is individually responsible for stealing the election? No. Do I think he knew about it? Yes. Do I think that he was a part of a system that he said, if they didn't share, in his own words, if they didn't share the same values that he did, he should probably quit, meaning that Polos and all the other people within Dominion see everyone else, you and me, both sides of the aisle, as useful idiots, and they can do whatever they want with their whatever group that they're working with in order to circumvent the voice of the American people. And not just at the national level, but at the state level and at the local level, which Tina Peters proved as well. So, and the fact that we can't get to a place where we're willing to just be honest about it, I mean, that's all I want. Look, the truth is what the truth is. Galatians 4:16, am I the enemy because I tell you the truth? Obviously, I've become the enemy to a lot of people as a result of that. But if you ask me how could it be with Eric, that's not being academically or intellectually honest about what he is or has done. Because he has proven himself to be a very, 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 very volatile individual, right? And frankly, that I do wish if I went back in time, my best friend, 88 years old, Gordon said, Joe, he's 88 today. So he wasn't 88 when I started, 83 when I started. He has been a mentor to me. He is my best friend. And
you talked about him on the stand, yeah?
And they said, hey, we should have him testify. I was like, absolutely not. I mean, I want him to, and he said he would. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. And I was like, no, you won't. Because I don't need it. The jury will either believe me or they won't believe me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to be honest with them. And, but he told me that night, that Friday night, the 6th,
mm-hmm.
he said, stay out of it. Just turn this over to someone else. Let them handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought about it for a minute. And I was like, I can't do that because that's not what he would ask me to do if it didn't have an adverse effect on me. I knew what adverse effect was going to have on me and I didn't like it, but I'm also a man that's driven by my faith. And I believe that God put me on the path and I should stay on it. So, and I wish I didn't. Even as I look back, I wish I would have stuck to the things because I got kicked off boards.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that I was really passionate about, besides selling the company for, an enormous amount of money and sailing off into the sunset, I gave up the things that I love, which is people and the most vulnerable positions. So, I wish I could go backwards.
Again, it kind of strikes me that if Coomer said many of the same words you just said, even about referring to your volatility
mm-hmm.
and that, the things he's lost in his life, et cetera, it would make perfect sense as well.
But I did not say that I stole an election, that he's not going to win. And that did not lead to him not winning. And that did not lead to us getting the institutional evidence we had from the ASOG report all the way down to what's happened in Michigan and Nevada and Georgia and all these different states and the mathematical values behind that. I don't have all of this evidence behind me that I did something wrong. I have people trying to kill my family. That's what I have. And there's a reason that happened to me. If he said that, hey, they came after me and they came out, then why was he just sitting at a bar drinking pretty much every day? All through 2020, 2023, nobody bothered him. Nobody said a word to him. How does that happen? How do you say you're in fear for your life and sit at a bar and drink and have fun? And
I'm not sure what, I'm not aware, obviously, of the specifics of the situation, but it is the sort of thing, I don't drink anymore, but it is the sort of thing I could see somebody headed to a bar for day after day in the wake of that.
But he owned the bar.
Oh, it was that restaurant that he had opened?
He owns 2 of them.
Gotcha.
So it's not like we're talking about, I'm not, frankly, I want to get to a place where paper ballots in person, we just do something that's transparent for the people. Let's try that for once. Maybe. Right. And then we can stop talking about it. But why is it we can't get to a place where we're like, oh yeah, everyone says that the election systems are shit. Let's get rid of them. It's really simple. We'll just get rid of the election machines and we'll go to paper ballots in person, give an ID. Right. And they're like, oh, black people don't know how to use a phone. Black people don't know how to have an ID. It's racist. And you ask any black person out there, and people in my family are offended by that.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, what? You saw the videos of the Michigan or the New York governor saying that black people don't know how to use a computer.
I missed that one, but
he had the video of the guy just running around the thing, acting like he's some sort of barbarian, because it's just not true. It's not. It's institutionally dishonest. It's dishonest.
Yeah, I can't say that I've heard those allegations, but I feel like I have heard that economically those can disadvantage lower strata. I don't think I've heard it presented in surely black terms before.
Well, but
you know what I mean? Because some people can't afford
right?
phones or internet. That's a reality. That's why we still have rural broadband initiatives in this country, et cetera, right?
Who doesn't have, who you're saying that there are people out there that don't have cell phones? That there are certain people.
Yeah.
It's 1% of 1%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're now creating a problem where we don't want to secure the election of all of these people based on the 1% of 1%. And we want to say that those people can't. Here's an easier deal. An easier sell, by the way, to everyone, including you.
Mm-hmm.
Free IDs.
Yeah.
I mean, but we can't do that either. I mean, it's like, oh, that's racist. You're giving them you're taking a disadvantaged person and make them know that they're disadvantaged.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a free lunch. You can't do it. I mean, the absurdity of the things that we argue do not allow us to have good conversations or dialogue, right? And frankly, all of this could go away. Get rid of the machines, the mail-in ballots, get rid of all that, make people do, if it's the number one thing we have, make people show up and vote. And look, I don't actually care who you vote for. If you truly believe that, stop creating mechanisms that take away transparency and put the power into the hands of the very few in every state and local municipality, because that's what happens. And we find out that we have people that, you have lobbyist groups that can walk into a legislative area and say, here's what you're going to do, and here's $1,000 for each of you. I mean, there's only 7,500 elected officials in this entire country.
Mm-hmm.
You could spend $1 million on every one of them. They don't even need that. Some of you can buy for $5.
Yeah.
And a little bit of recognition, right? You could own this country with that, and yet we're having this conversation about whether or not there's evidence or not evidence, but they sweep it under the rug, and you're not allowed to talk about it. And you don't treat something that's not true the way they've treated our election systems. Period.
Is that like your most gravitas argument for it?
No, my most gravitas argument is the fact that if you want to create unity in our country, you should take away the mechanisms by which there isn't unity, right? So if you take away the fact that there isn't transparent elections and you make them transparent and you get back to the lowest common denominator and you basically take the temperature down in our country down 500 knots, now we can start having a conversation about what really should be the case. And that is people that are in legislative positions or unelected positions should not be sitting in an air-conditioned office while kids are sitting inside a classroom and can't literally sweating to death with a teacher that, has zero interest in actually teaching them, who's more interested in making more money themselves than the value of the education that they're getting to push that child out to the real world. So if you want to solve the problem, you have to service the problem, not the symptom of the problem. And we keep literally allowing them to stoke the fire with symptoms while leaving us in the sideline while they stand above us as if it were a gladiatorial contest and, watching us fight while they're eating popcorn. And that's what it feels like.
Yeah. I mean, I was just going to say, if that's the signal, doesn't all this noise of Coomer and the Antifa call and the defamation suits, isn't your principle lost somewhere in there?
No, because the truth is what the truth is.
Elections.
The truth is what the truth is. And if you go back and watch what I say now, it's very simple. No machines, no mail-in ballots. Get to the place where the people can actually run them at a precinct level and count them at a precinct level. And let's stop the people that we have in the political theater. Let's stop them from calling everything politics, because sometimes it is ethics. Sometimes it is the things that we actually do should be driven by the society. It should be driven by our community, but they've taken that away, right? We never even get to the reality of what's happening in the community. We don't get to the fact that 56 cents on every dollar goes to the government in one way, shape, or form, leaving less than 50% to be able to feed your family and take care of things while you're investing. And they keep making irresponsible decisions. We have to pay for every road we get on now. Yeah, you pay for your house forever, which means you rent it from the government. I mean, there are so many similarities between what people feel on the left and the right that if we could eliminate the things that don't make sense at all, like elections that are bunk, we would have so many other things that we could fill that time with. We could actually solve massive problems. At the same time, they don't want us to solve these problems because chaos favors the op, never favors the people. And if they knew that you and I were having this conversation, and then we started having a conversation with a third person and a fourth person and a fifth person, and all of a sudden it spread like wildfire, and we could actually just settle in on the fact that we should not have big pharma telling us how we can be healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, the greatest thing in the world, I love Bobby Kennedy. Love that guy. He's been fighting for a long time. Doesn't have to fight for anything. He's generationally wealthy. So why is he doing it? Right? He truly knows that he can't unsee what he sees. I can't unsee what I see. I can't unsee it. But now I can get to a place where I was like, all right, I've lived through that. I got my PhD in politics over the last 5 years. Now I get to the place where nobody gets to take from me what's not theirs. And I get to basically talk about whatever I want to talk about. And you know what? I'm gonna be intellectually and institutionally honest about everything that I say and all my dealings. I'm gonna be consistent in my character, but I'm no longer going to be out there justifying and pissing up the rope of people that frankly don't care about either side.
There's a couple developments that have happened since I saw you last at the trial that I wanted to ask you about. One is the Salem media retraction and apology.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know what to ask about that, but your name's all over it, certainly. And I imagine that foreshadows a settlement of some kind. I'm not sure what else.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that, so there's what's called a res judicata, right? And it means that it's been decided.
Got it.
So the jury in the trial with Mike Lindell, so they settled Salem before the trial ended.
Gotcha.
Okay? And they did so based on how the trial was going. The trial did not go well for Coomer at all, in a lot of different ways. One, it's not a $2.3 million settlement. There's a box at the very bottom of the settlement where you go through the economic damages and you said, okay, 1.9 on one, 400,000 on the other. Okay.
Yeah.
But the requirement for defamation is malicious intent. Well, they marked that box no. And everybody kind of skipped over that. The judge didn't skip over it because the judge was pissed when the judge left. Right?
Well, Frank's speech got reckless, right? I don't think it was, I'm brain farting the word that you just said. I don't think it was malice.
Yeah.
That they decided, but they did decide, right? Lindell hadn't been personally reckless, but they did find he had done the defamation.
But you can't have a finding of defamation without malice. It's a Supreme Court ruling.
Okay.
So that anything that they find economically there would not apply to Mike. And how do you find malice in the case of Frank's speech, right? Or Lindell TV?
Recklessness, I think, is what the jury came up with there. Or because they didn't decide that for Mike himself. They
Right,
did not
right.
decide he
So-
was reckless.
So the problem is that there was a question related to what I said, and the jury found what I said to be both truthful and credible. And I think that's the part that all the news outlets kind of skip past.
Elaborate. Spell that out for me. What part
When-
of what you said about the call?
Yeah, they found it to be credible. And you could say, well, they didn't say that they were credible. No. They found that it was not defamatory, right? So if it's not defamatory, if it's found credible, and then you have the questions that are asked of the jury after everything's done, which I have knowledge of, so I'm not going to say what knowledge I have, but there was a finding that what I said was not defamatory because it wasn't. So
Does that carry any weight
yes.
judicially moving forward?
Oh, yes. Yes. That's why they call it res judicata, right? And now I'm not a party to that case, but it's already been decided
Mhm.
by 8 jurors in the bluest state in the nation, you could say.
Massachusetts, come on.
Wow, you get close. But so it does. It has a large bearing. But yeah. So
Does
Salem,
that have, because you testified on the stand, does that have any bearing on the 10th Circuit's decision recently about the subpoena and the deposition from before?
frankly, that came 4 days after all of this,
Mhm.
and that $1,000 a day and everything else. So we're in the process of going through. The attorneys are going through that. There's some things that I can't tell you about that are coming out of that I think are going to be rather interesting. But I will say this: there has been deliberate actions that were taken that were, if not negligent, were purposeful in order to cause what happened. Because remember, the 10th Circuit came out based on said that I violated procedure. It wasn't the factual basis of it.
Mhm.
So we're going back to argue the factual basis of me being have news person privilege, and the fact that I'm a first party to the conversation, not a third party. None of it was hearsay. So the stuff that I testified to was, and now that we have the affidavit from Tay Anderson, Coomer's in trouble. I mean, as far as my trial, he's in big trouble. And Clay Clark, he'd be best if he just let that case go, because what comes next is going to be very problematic for Eric Coomer and his attorneys, for that matter.
By that, do you mean the trial that you're a party to?
The trial that I'm a party to. I mean, he can do whatever he wants. I'm all about it. I need my day in court.
Mhm.
Like, I want my day in court. I need my day in court. But there are things that you can't unring the bell that have happened in the Mike Lindell case, which frankly are not going to bode well for Eric Coomer.
Do you guys have any idea when that
April, I think, next year.
April next year? Okay. And
Yeah.
will that be in the Colorado district as well? Denver district?
Denver District Court.
Got it.
But there's some things that Marie Avery Moses, the judge in that case, I've got a couple surprises based on someone closely related to Miss Moses. The problem with people is that people loose lips sink ships, and people like to talk.
Mhm.
And the thing that
We're
happens,
journalists. We make our money off of people liking to talk. You know?
but after 4 years, you have people that have come forward that is really problematic in that case. And so we may remand it to the federal case so that I can sue the judges in this case for the sua sponte and some of the things that Marie Avery Moses did to purposely, again, put the finger on the scales of justice that allowed for Coomer to get as far as he did, because it never should have gotten that far. And now that we have information and other stuff that'll come out in the subsequent trial, I am going to cooperate fully with the other Dominion voting systems, slander, defamation cases.
Mhm.
And I think you can get from talking to me that I am like a dog with a bone.
Mhm.
Like, when you come for me, I'm going to find everything. I'm going to lift every rock. I'm going to make sure that I get tight and right. And I've had 4 years to get tight and right.
Mhm.
I've had 4 years to gather up more and more and more and more information. And, I think the best part about where I am right now is that I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing. I'm going to go back to serving kids, taking care of getting men to do what they need to do. I'm going to coach again. I'm going to do a lot of different things that I used to do. And I'm going to run away from politics. I'm going to get back to doing what I know is, like, I actually don't care. Like, I warned him. I did what I was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
I warned everyone. I told you this is what the system does. This is how bad it is. I told you how to fix it. I wrote a 783-page white paper on election systems with a bluff that was 7 pages long. It said, here's what you do in order to fix the system so you can get rid of both sides will be happy.
Mm-hmm.
The people will be happy. The politicians won't, because it won't favor them. They
Mhm.
won't be able to do some of the crappy stuff that they've done to people across the country and become worth $300 million on her, like Pelosi.
Mhm.
That's absurd. Both sides should be upset with that. Right?
Yeah, I mean, well, and Pelosi's not the only one in Congress who's making money off of her position by far.
Both sides.
That's, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that I'm in a peaceful place like I've never been before, but I'm never going to let anybody take from me what's not theirs again. They're not going to take away my voice, and they're not going to take away my passion, and they're certainly not going to get me to react to their bad behavior and lash out. Like, I'm past it. I'm at the place now where I just want to do what I know God wants me to do, and I want to do it with the passion that I can set aside any differences that I have with someone, accept them where they are, not where I want them to be,
Mhm.
and really get to a place where we can work the problem. Because we got a lot of problems. We got a lot of problems in this state. We got a lot of problems across the country. And these kids, your kids, because your kids are younger, mine are older,
Mhm.
they deserve it. They deserve to have a society where all the adults act like children and the kids sit around and learn bad stuff from us. I want that to stop.
Mhm.
And when my son called me out on a social post, and he's like, Dad, you said that he should rot in jail for the rest, or he should die in jail. So you want him to die? And I went, when I got the realization that my kids are paying attention,
Mhm.
that's when I came to the realization that I'm responsible for those words.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be responsible with those words.
What a great interview. That right there is what I call a serious destruction in one way, but also is relatively civil. That shows that, Joe, you're able to get along with people on the left, which I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing, but I guess it is. I guess it probably is.
I get along with everybody. If you give me an opportunity to have a conversation with you, it's hard not to see that as common sense.
By the way, while you're watching, I was outside shooting off some fireworks. I lost 2 fingers, unfortunately. So I it's okay. Don't worry, it's okay. I still got 3 left on this hand. I got 5 left in the other hand. I'll be fine. I probably shouldn't have held the firecracker so close, but it's all good.
You tried to eat it. Yeah, so you thought it was a burger.
Happy 4th of July. It's seriously good stuff. Good stuff today.
Happy 4th of July. And kids, don't try it at home. Make sure you leave it to the adults to screw things up.
Yeah, that's a good plan. Don't do what I did today. Don't stay away from that.
All right. Well, you want to pray us out?
I do want to pray us out.
All right.
Dear Lord, as people are so divided, maybe more than ever in some ways, right now in our country, allow paths to be formed to find common ground. Hopefully more so them coming to us to find common ground, but allow us to be able to come together through strength and through common sense and make our country better, make this place better for people to live here, to enjoy, to raise a family, and be able to really take full advantage in the most fun and amazing way possible of the incredible earth you've given us. Amen.
Amen. Have a great rest of the day.
Enjoy the weekend.
I'm going to go eat some burgers.
That sounds good. I like that idea.
Yeah, sounds good. Say hi to the girls.